Welcome to One Strategy Showcase. I'm Fergus O'Carroll in Chicago. If you're watching us on YouTube, you will see that I'm holding in my hand my gold Effie trophy. So thank you to the Effies for sending this to me. Now, the caveat is I didn't actually win it. They actually sent it to me because I asked them if I could have one on my set. So if you're watching on YouTube or on our website, you can actually see this delicious gold Effie. Doesn't have my name on it, but it's still, very heavy, still very heavy. The Effies are part of our live tour. They're a sponsor of our live tour alongside Tracksuit, and we're welcoming also as a sponsor on the tour this year, Ipsos. So thank you to Ipsos for being a part of it. We'll have more about that relationship going forward. But we are going to be in Dallas on Thursday, September 18th at the Richards Group. That's TRG. We got a great panel that includes Terrence Reynolds, a legendary creative from the Richards Group, Chief Creative Officer. Quite the legend. And if you don't know the Richards Group and the history of TRG and the whole history of those guys in terms of their creative, it's phenomenal. Chick-fil-A, Home Depot, Motel 6, Ram Trucks, the list goes on. Brilliant work. So I'm really excited to talk with Terrence. We've also got Derek Dabrowski, who's head of cold beverage brands at Dr. Pepper, and they do phenomenal work. They do work out of Deutsch in LA. The Fansville work we're a huge fan of, no pun intended. That's terrific. We've also got Kate Rush-Sheehy, who is going to be driving to Dallas from Austin, Texas. She's Chief Strategy Officer at GSD&M, another legendary Texas agency. So she's going to be coming along with a whole caravan of GSD&M people, and hopefully a lot of folks from Austin will come up to Dallas for the event. It's a 3-hour drive, but in Texas, that's like going to the corner store, apparently. So we're thrilled to have her agreeing to join us. And Christopher Owens is head of brand strategy at the Richards Group. And many people will know Christopher from the industry and from the show. He's been on the show in the past. So I'm thrilled to have them. We really want to get a great turnout of the creative community in Texas and Dallas area. So you can get tickets on our homepage under the live tour tab. Then we head from Dallas into New York. We're going to be at Mischief the next week, which is Thursday, September 25th. We've got a great lineup there, and you can learn more about that on our website. And check out the tickets. Back to today's episode, we're talking Neutrogena, and if you're not familiar with their new work, you may have been under a stone for the last 6 to 12 months. It's BBDO New York, the Neutrogena campaign. You may remember the 90210 spot that they did with Donna and David. For fans of 90210 back in the 90s, it was a huge show. And so for retinol regeneration cream, BBDO did this campaign or some spots and this whole theme around 90s nostalgia, which of course is killing it for many marketers, this theme of nostalgia. But we're going to be talking today with a couple of people. And before we get in from BBDO, before we get into that, I have to apologize to Leah Gritton. Now, Leah, I butchered her name throughout this entire conversation. I think I managed to pronounce her name every way except the correct way. And her name is actually spelled Leah, and I just butchered that throughout. I wasn't even consistently bad at it in terms of using the same one, repeating the same mispronunciation again and again. I just went all over the place. So it is Leah, and I apologize to Leah. I've actually talked to her over email about it too. So Leah Gritton is EVP, Group Director of Integrated Strategy at BBDO. Chris Riet is also joining us. He's from the client to VP Global Neutrogena brand leader at Kenvue. He's in New York. And the terrific Alex Booker is Executive Creative Director for BBDO New York. And what's phenomenal about this work is the sort of disruptive nature of the idea. And the idea that, particularly when you're looking at sort of proactive skincare, that that wrinkles are not the first sign of aging, maybe nostalgia is. And that's the basic premise at the heart of this. So I hope you enjoyed this one. It's a great conversation with these guys. And if you haven't seen the campaign, and if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see the creative work dropped into this episode. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, you can actually go to our website and see all of the work there. Thank you to BBDO, and thank you to Neutrogena for this episode. Enjoy.
This week on Neutrogena Remembers.
Why, Donna Martin, are you asking me to marry you?
Yes, David Silver. Will you marry me?
I think I will.
I love you.
I love you.
If you remember rooting for Donna and David, it may be time to start using Neutrogena Retinol Renewal Serum. Restore smoother, younger-looking skin with one bottle. Sorry, this is weird. Take care of that young skin.
So, Leah, how do you look at the category?
Well, I mean, I think that the category, when it comes to communications, is kind of in two camps, like on two sides. Medicinal, clinical, absolutely. Like, it's been very functional, very close into the skin. Like, that's just one sort of been caught in this claims game, like 48 hours, 72 hours, 9 times, 10 times. It's just been this functional pathway. Or on the other side, you have this like ethereal glamour and celebrity faces. And I think that has worked for a long time because beauty is just the most fundamental need and desire. It has stood the test of time. It is always there. And we've been in a boom of skincare and beauty. So it's just been growing. And it doesn't matter, there's been no incentive to change because it works. But I think what we've seen, or what especially this team, is that we're kind of at this reckoning where people are a bit overwhelmed with choice. People are kind of getting tired of seeing all of that, and it's just noise. So I think that's why for us, we knew we wanted to set out to do something extremely different and kind of disrupt what has been happening on both sides of those spectrums.
So, Chris, the business had been with DDB for a couple of decades. Was it a pitch that went to BBDO, or how did it end up? Why did it end up at BBDO? What was the ask that you had for them?
Yeah, that was absolutely a pitch. So I mean, we've been working for what, a year together, right? Time's flying super fast.
Just over a year. Yeah.
It feels like decades, but yeah.
Dog years. Yeah.
No, but we're coming from. I mean, what we want to achieve with the brand, Fergus, is really turnaround. So we wanted to really a breakthrough versus what has been the communication of the brand, especially for the last 5, 6, 7 years. The brand is it's a massive mega brand. It's quite challenged in beauty. There's a lot of new entrants all the time, and and beauty is such a high energy category. There's something new happening every 6 months. A lot of new communications. You need to be on edge, on top of the game, on your toe, to be competitive in that category. And I think this is what we wanted to do: put the brand, get the brand back into on edge of the category and get the brand back in culture. And we felt that we needed a partner that is different, that is, social focus.
So what Chris was saying is, when we look at it, like you look at Skin Talk, which is its own subset of TikTok, there's something like 4.3 or 4.4 billion posts just sitting in that subsection of TikTok. So the whole industry has shifted away, like significantly away from like traditional media and the way we used to do things and the way we used to consume, where we'd get our beauty info from, like the ads that Leia was talking about, like where a celebrity would just be, someone that you would aspire to look like. Whereas now a celebrity is someone that has a voice and has a very kind of, a set of opinions that they put out into the world, and you can attach yourself to them and get their audiences. And so much of this is happening within the beauty space and within TikTok in particular, that like we have to be culturally relevant to get those eyeballs and to get those people talking about us as the brand. And like Chris is talking about, get that relevancy back for Neutrogena. Because if you think of us as a brand, like awareness isn't a problem for Neutrogena. Everybody knows about Neutrogena and they've known about it for the last 50 years. Is Neutrogena a relevant brand to me? And I think that's where we're trying to find our little space within that TikTok area or within social in particular to really carve out like a voice for ourselves and build back that relevancy that we need for the brand.
So, Leah, for you, when you came onto this pitch or were part of the planning team, what sort of things did you guys do, and what were some of the key things you learned?
So, I mean, we did all the usual suspects. You know, I wish to say we did something radically different to find things. I think what was different, though, was we set out with a really clear goal. Like, because skincare is it all looks the same. So we knew, and it's very surface, we knew we wanted something very deep and to bring a totally unique perspective to the category, which is hard. So we did a deep dive, and we did a deep dive of aging in general, like aging, the culture of aging, not just for this specific assignment, not just aging on the skin. Obviously, we looked at the category because it's so well trod.
Why did you do aging? Why? Because of a particular product that you were marketing?
So talking about this campaign, this was, I mean, we looked at every subgenre of beauty, but this campaign was specifically for aging skin. Retinol is a gold standard when it comes to aging, and it is, you know, that's what we're selling. So we wanted to understand beyond just what's happening on the skin and why people reach for anti-aging products. Like, what does that mean? So I think the first thing that we learned was society and the category. It's like a horror genre. I mean, literally, if you think about the substance, you know, body horror is a new genre of horror films. And the industry preys on that. You know, there's a lot of fear-based advertising, a lot of problem solution, like combat, fight, you know, it's like a battle. And I think that we wanted to be very different than that. So that was one insight that we had. Another is when it comes to our own appearance, like the relationship we have with our own appearance has fundamentally changed in recent years because of this, because you're staring at your face every day. You just are confronted with every change. So it used to be that like a trigger point for aging was a wrinkle. That is no longer what gets people thinking about aging. You know, it starts much earlier. The signs of aging, you're just much more attuned to changes in your face. So people are treating with retinol specifically like so much younger. And you're just so hyper aware of your own appearance today. And then another thing that we found, and I think this was really the unlock, was we looked at culture. Like how are people talking about aging? And it was radically different than the category. It wasn't fear-based, even though people are scared of it. It was largely through humor and nostalgia. And you're seeing a lot of things in social media of people saying, like, how was this movie 20 years ago? Like, how was that not yesterday that I was wearing these, you know, this style that's back, you know, already?
Yeah,
and I think that insight that it's actually nostalgia that's the first sign of aging. It's actually looking at a show and wondering and feeling like it just happened yesterday and realizing it happened decades ago. That's actually the real first sign of aging. And that, you know, we used a meme to brief, and it has ruined my team's life because now that has set the bar very high for what creative briefs should look like on Neutrogena. Like, you know, and Booker is relentless. Like, he'll look at a creative brief and say, no, that's not a Neutrogena brief, like that. So it has to have that culture.
Booker, what is this a meme that's being referred to here?
So Leah shared me a picture of a troll with pink hair, the troll dolls. And she's like, if you remember playing with one of these, then you're old. And that was like, I just set off it was just such a great insight into, like, you know, me as a 46-year-old, something that now when I look at Instagram, I'm constantly fed things like all these bands I grew up with are celebrating 30, 35 years of these iconic albums that I used to listen to. still listen to. But I think for me is like once we found Leia found that insight around nostalgia, and I want to unpack that a little. Like nostalgia has been used a lot in advertising beforehand, but I would say it hasn't been used in an interesting way. Like a lot of brands will bring out retro things, or they'll hark back to a time that was an awesome time like yesteryear. But what they don't do is find that cultural tension in there that, oh my God, that thing now means I'm old. And I think like when Leia unlocked that, for me, it was just like, we have to run at this so hard because it's not about finding a particular piece of IP or a show that we can connect ourselves to, even though one of our execution does that. It was more about how do we use this nostalgia as a trigger to remind people in all different aspects of their life that this is a sign that you are maybe a little older than you think, done in a very fun, humorous way, and then using that as something to motivate people to go and pick up some Neutrogena retinol and start taking care of their skin that before it gets to that next step where it's maybe too late. But
Give us
again,
an example, Booker. Give us an example that sort of explains even deeper what you were talking about in terms of the distinction between doing it in a culturally interesting way and how others have done it.
okay, so like others might bring, like another brand may bring back a retro pack from a certain period. So I'll use Narragansett as an example. They have a beer that comes out. They make the can that was the same can used in the Jaws film. So you can go and buy that beer, and like the packaging's wonderful, love it, but it's kind of surface level in the insight, right? It's like you remember Jaws, you remember the captain drinking this beer. You can be like that guy, drink the beer and enjoy it, and you remember that time fondly. We're taking those moments, like the Jaws film, for example, and using that to be like, if you saw this the first time it came out, that means a long time has passed in your life. And then we're using that as the motivation to go and, take care of your skin, which I think is radically different for the category. Like Leia was pointing out before, it's like, instead of telling people 7 times faster or removes wrinkles in 1 week, which we do in lower tier work, the bigger cultural hook is using nostalgia as that driver to go and get people to spur into action, and I think that's where it gets interesting. So yes, we use 90210 to do that, but then there's audio ads where in Spotify, for example, we're doing very targeted placements within 90s playlists, so that all of a sudden you're using that music as a trigger, or it might be that we make some swag that looks like it came from the 90s, or it might be that we take over an old Blockbuster video store and turn that into an activation. If you remember going down there on a Friday night and sifting through countless
That's
tapes and
right.
Be Kind Rewind or whatever it may be, like we can use those things. So I think it opened up a huge area for us to play in that like drove at that cultural relevance that we're talking about in the sense of like people can relate to it instantly. They get a smile out of it, and then they go on and be like, "Oh my God, Neutrogena, you just called me old, but I love it." And if there are videos. I mean, if you go and search 90210 Neutrogena on TikTok, you'll find like a whole slew of videos of people like, "Did you just call me old?" Like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that." But respect, I love it. And I think that's to us where we're starting to find those a long way of getting back to your question around the cultural relevance and Leia creating these briefs that I now hold up as the benchmark. It's like it has to have something that drives a cultural response in it versus just telling us like this product does XYZ, which will, have these results. And I think like when with this whole category moving so heavily into social first, we need to find those insights that live in a social space that people do relate to, be it aging or be it, hair care or whatever the next product is that we're working on.
So, Chris, it's interesting when you look at a brand like Neutrogena, been around for decades. It is has been marketing for a certain way in for a long period of time, a lot of times that becomes sort of a result of the organization culturally itself being used to that way of advertising, that way of messaging, or it looks at the category and it says, well, this is the way other people are doing it. We're big by scale, so we can just continue to do that. So my question is, when you bring this work, let's talk about like the Beverly Hills 90210 concept. When that comes to you, and then you're thinking in your head, I've got to get this sold in internally. Not that it's radical in any way, but it's different. How did you anticipate people reacting, and how did they actually react?
What's specific to the category beauty is that there's so much content out there, right? So much content. So there's so much clutter. There's so much noise. And especially people love products in beauty. They just love products. So it's so easy to just dump content on products all the time, right? And it's comfortable for a beauty brand to do that. So, and for me, the challenge that we have to solve, and especially when again we're coming from a place of challenge, like I was said before, for you to be competitive again, I mean, you need to break through that clutter. We're obsessed by making through the clutter and to get the organization. And because you're right. I mean, an organization like ours is big. We're sort of be a bit too conservative sometimes, or a bit risk-averse sometimes, and get the right incentive for us to be bolder and more daring in how we approach communication. Is to be obsessed by breaking through the clutter. Because if you're not bold enough, you're just not heard at all.
So one of the things that struck me is that you were talking earlier, when we were talking earlier about the idea this is part science and it's part beauty. It's interesting that you guys kept a dermatologist in the spot. Booker, was that in the original concept, or was that something that you were later felt you needed to do? You did it really incredibly well, because she comes across as more actress than dermatologist. She's almost comedic.
Yeah.
Tell me about that role.
I can tell you about that role and a fun story that goes with it. So the fun part first is that role is our directors, David Shafi and Lizzie Bourne. That's actually David's dermatologist. So we did cast for a dermatologist. So everything we do, and Chris touched on this at the beginning, our brand platform is beauty to a science. That means beauty and science are inseparable. Those two things are a huge part of everything that we do. To bring the science and give the credibility, we always use a real dermatologist within our marketing. So we find interesting ways to bring that dermatologist in. We don't just want them to be the voice of science that just kind of stands there and delivers the boring stuff. We want them to feel like they're inseparable from the work that we do. And we feel like having someone like Dr. Shauna, who is a very real dermatologist, who just happened to have great comedic timing, come in and give you that message. It was done in a way that felt like it was a truth bomb that was being dropped on you, but done with a smile and a nod and a little bit of a word. So it didn't feel like she's just, hey, you're old. It was more like, if you remember this, it may be time. And it's just that little elongation on the maybe that allowed her to come across as someone that's quite sincere.
This week on Neutrogena Remembers.
Why, Donna Martin, are you asking me to marry you?
Yes, David Silver. Will you marry me?
I think I will.
I love you.
I love you.
If you remember rooting for Donna and David, it may be time to start using Neutrogena Retinol Renewal Serum. Restore smoother, younger-looking skin with one bottle. Sorry, this is weird. Take care of that young skin.
Dermatologists are a core equity for Neutrogena. So Neutrogena...
Tell me about that. Has it always been that way?
Always. So that was what the brand, I mean, Chris can speak to this better than me, but that was what the brand was founded on. It was a dermatologist endorsed, developed formula. And it was this belief that you could get something that was very effective, dermatologically advanced, but also mild and gentle. And that was that was what the brand was built to do. And Neutrogena gave birth to what we see today is called dermocosmetic skincare. So dermatologists developed, all of those dermatologists recommended, and that is the category that is booming and why things are so clinical. So we invented this category and everyone else came in and overtook it. So we had to find a new way to bring dermatologists in that wasn't just education, skin benefits, democratizing access to derm advice. I think what Booker has done that's so amazing is made them part of our storytelling. Like they're part of the cultural storytelling. They're not just there as a sort of scientific sign off. And that was really important to take back the category we created and start talking about it in a new way.
And on social, derms are rock stars now. Like one of the derms we work with has 20-something million followers and huge amounts of engagement on their posts. I mean, people are seeking out information from people they trust. As we get more and more information that's less trustworthy thrown at us, like derms do bring that credibility. So it's very important for us to work with derms that lend that credibility to our story. And they don't love all of our products either, which I think is crucial as well, that sometimes they won't work with certain things. Sometimes they'll call out the fact that this one over here, stay away from that. But when they give us the endorsement on the good ones, that is, it's worth its weight in gold for us.
So Booker, Leah, Booker mentioned beauty to a science. Is that a Neutrogena enterprise-wide platform, or is that for regeneration and Hydro Boost? Is it just for certain product lines?
No, that is that is a brand. That is what the brand stands for. We are a beauty brand powered by science. And, going back to that dichotomy that we talked about of there's clinical and then there's that ethereal glamour. Chris mentioned the no compromise. You shouldn't have to compromise. And that is our fundamental belief. You should be able to want to pursue whatever beauty ideal you want, and science is the best means to do that. We have the best, our science is not in service of science. Like, we're not celebrating labs. We're not celebrating chemistry. We're getting you the beauty you want through the most powerful platform there is, which is dermatological science.
So where does this all start for you, Chris, in terms of the executions? For me, I feel like it started when I began to see the regenerating cream work. But then I'm confused because maybe the first time I saw it was with John Cena in the Super Bowl for a different product. Where did the new BBDO work start to roll out?
So actually, the first campaign we've launched was it's the Collagen Bank campaign that we launched. So I was trying
Which one?
Collagen Bank. So a campaign where we had Dr. Tomation and Haley Steinfeld, sang together.
We lose 1% of our collagen every year starting in our 20s, which means we must start banking collagen for plumper, glowing skin. Do it with Neutrogena Collagen Bank. Trust me, I'm a banker.
Shouldn't they trust me, the dermatologist?
It's not a competition.
Then we had Tate McRae and Dr. Shah together. Then we had, John Cena and Dr. Niranathan.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nira, here to interview John Cena, the new face of Neutrogena Ultra Sheer Sunscreen.
What's up? Let's do this.
But as you can see, he flaked.
What? I'm right here.
Anyway, Ultra Sheer gives you high SPF protection, and it has an invisible finish.
Hello?
You can't see it. And cut.
You know you can't do that. Ready to trademark.
You can't see me, my time is now. You can't see me, my time is now.
So you probably at this point have a pretty good sense, Booker, of what worked better than another. Because for me, this sort of influencer and celebrity connected work, you've got sort of a baked in audience there of people who are fans of those influencers, or not influencers, but those celebrities. But then you go to a different direction, it feels, when you go with Beverly Hills 90210, you go with Landline, you go with magazines, which are these icons of the 90s. Conceptually, it's a very different direction, but what was your sense of it, and how has it sort of been playing out?
Yeah, so we very deliberately go in different directions depending on what the cultural tension is that we're chasing. I think like the John Cena thing, we were really looking at bringing the product benefit, right, which was invisible sunscreen. So we were looking at really driving that home. And then as we started thinking into that, it would be like, well, who is the most interesting kind of person that we could bring an invisible sunscreen to life with? And if you look at it, there's 20 plus years of internet talk around John Cena being invisible. Now we could have just lent on the meme and added to it, but to me that it's a little lazy to just do that. What we needed to do was really find a new way to give that meme new life. So it was really John Cena struggling with the fact that maybe he has become invisible, and him realizing that, in front of you for the first time is like, that's how we can start to get the interest around that product in particular. And we did a lot of stuff starting with memes and very small pieces, that even a teaser that kind of retracted his name and things like that, that starts to get that internet chatter talking. But it was very much, that campaign was very much about how do we get the internet talking about what we're doing before we drop the big reveal. And then obviously we had a lot of fun with John Cena, and you get a lot of press and PR associated with that, and how that came out into the world. Then the 90210 was deliberately quite different because we didn't want to
That's for a different product, right? That's where
it's a different product.
Regenerating cream is this
So
one.
we are trying to make sure that we find different ways in for each thing. Like, even though we have the consistency of dermatologists through everything that we're doing, and we have the cultural insights that Chris like hounds me on like on a daily basis. He's like, "What's the cultural hook in that?" But it's so important to the work that we're doing is we're talking to a different audience. And so it wouldn't make sense for us, like when we're selling sunscreen to someone that's going on vacation, that's a different person that's like using a retinol regenerating cream, which is very different to like someone in their 20s using Hydro Boost. Like, that's why we go with Tate McRae in that instance, and we're building like the relevancy to the audience that we're talking to. So every idea does have to be different, but the red thread between all of them is that derm integration. We're always talking about the beauty. We're always talking about the science that gets you the beauty. And then the cultural hook is like where we find that relevancy. And then the last thing I would say on that is the use of celebrity. It's not a mandate that we use it, but like celebrity has changed a little bit. To the point earlier was celebrities used to be just used as the someone that you would try and uphold yourself to, or someone that you wanted to be like or look like. Now they're very much a media channel, and we really do use them in that sense. It's a way to connect with an audience. It's a shortcut to getting 20, 30 million eyeballs looking at your thing. You can use them in a more engaging and deeper way and tap into their communities, and then use those communities to amplify your message. So for us, it's like the coming together of all of those things is starting to build out like who Neutrogena is. I've got to give Chris all the credit, because when we started this journey, like, it's a lot of theory and it's a lot of like trust us. We know what we're doing, or we think we know what we're doing. But Chris has been the champion of this the whole entire time, and his team. It's been wonderful. And then it's very hard to get everyone to buy into that on the first execution. Now that there's like 6 or 7 things out there where you start to see it come together, even though on paper they don't look anything alike, it's like, oh, that's exactly what you were saying, and that's why this is working so well for us.
So I don't remember the guy who played David, but Tori Spelling
Brian
played
Austin
Donna.
Green.
Ryan Austin Green. Were they in the spot? Because I've read that they needed to be. There was a combination. You needed them for some aspect of the idea. Is that true, or was it just the original footage from the show?
It's original footage from the show with some lookalikes, just to give us some camera angles that didn't exist from the real footage. And then then our VFX team went and recreated Manhattan Beach. So we laid the sand out, the big "I love you, Donna," in the sand. We recreated that for real. We recreated a lifeguard tower, and then the rest is all VFX.
When you look at the signals that you're getting right now, obviously it's relatively new. Although you're coming up on 8 months, so it's relatively new still. Are there signals that you're getting that lead you to believe you're doing the right thing, and what are they?
We are super focused on the engagement, because it's about the short-term sales impact, but it's also about like building back the relevance of the brand and building back the equity. So the engagement is, all forms of engagement. We've been tracking those very, very closely, and the impact is awesome, and I think Alex, you were saying it, but we the just even the comments. I mean, how people have engaged with the content in their feeds. Like it's actually a source of content as well, because of how smart and how hilarious are the comments with the content. So we love it, and just like Claire just said, what we love also is the reaction to, because it's the beauty industry. It's a small world, with some very important drivers, and the tailors, the derms, influencers. I mean, their opinion is super important. And honestly, this reset of the communication has been turning heads. And this campaign especially is getting so much like good vibes from our partners. So yeah, I mean, Neutrogena is back for sure, thanks to these campaigns.
We are excited that you guys came along. I really love this work. It's Chris Riat is a VP Global Neutrogena brand leader for Kenvue. Alex Booker, Colin Booker, is Executive Creative Director at BBDO in New York. And Leah Gritton is EVP Group Director of Integration Strategy for BBDO. Thank you to the three of you for spending some time with us. Brilliant work. We're going to drop it in and we'll put it on our website for everybody to see. And we'll be watching what comes next. Thanks to everybody for your time.
Thank you,
Thank you
Fergus.
so much.
Great to be here.
Thank you.
And we'll see everyone on the next episode.